The chamber smelled of smoke, oil, and alien perfumes that clung to the air like a heavy curtain. Jack Mason leaned against a cold iron pillar, his rough coat hiding the old scars that marked his years as a soldier. Around him, voices rose in a dozen different tongues, deep growls, high-pitched chirps, and the wet clicks of insectoid traders. It was the kind of place where fortunes were lost in a single heartbeat, and lives meant less than the coins on the table. At the center of the grand hall stood a platform carved from dark stone. Harsh white lights shone down upon it, burning away any shadow. Upon that stage, the auctioneer stood tall, with silver skin and 6 arms that moved as if they had minds of their own. His voice rolled like thunder, deep and mocking, commanding the room as though the very walls bent toward him. He had already sold rare crystals mined from dead stars, weapons banned by 3 empires, and slaves dragged from forgotten wars. Each sale ended in roars of laughter and the stench of greed. But then the noise softened. The crowd leaned forward as a cage rose slowly from beneath the stage, its iron bars gleaming under the lights. Inside stood a figure unlike any other. She was young, slender, her skin glowing faintly like moonlight poured into flesh. Her eyes were large and bright, filled with a fire that had not yet died, though sorrow clung to her face. Chains of gold tightened around her wrists, and her long silver hair fell across her shoulders. Even in captivity, she carried herself like royalty. She did not bow her head. She did not look broken. The auctioneer spread all 6 arms wide, his voice shaking the chamber. Behold the jewel of a fallen world. The last princess of House Vera, Lyra of the Starlit Throne. A ripple went through the crowd. Merchants gasped. Soldiers muttered. Warlords leaned forward on their seats, their eyes narrowing like predators who smelled blood. The auctioneer smiled, rows of sharp teeth flashing. The finest prize of the night. Her kingdom is ash, her armies scattered, her throne ground to dust. But here she stands, a living treasure. A prize beyond price. Who dares to begin the bidding? Numbers exploded into the air. Voices shouted over one another. A squat reptilian warlord slammed a clawed hand against the table and offered enough credits to buy a fleet. A silk-clad merchant with 4 jeweled eyes doubled it without flinching. The air grew thick with greed. Every bid rose higher, louder, hungrier. And then, like a knife through the noise, the auctioneer laughed. He raised one of his 6 arms and silenced the crowd. His silver eyes swept over the hall, then stopped on the corner where Jack stood. The laugh that came from his throat was cruel and mocking. A human in my hall, he said. A human who thinks he belongs among kings and conquerors. His grin widened. Do you hear that, my guests? Perhaps the little human wishes to place a bid as well. Laughter rolled through the chamber, sharp and ugly. Some pounded the tables. Others hissed or jeered. A few even spat in Jack's direction. Humans were rare in this part of the galaxy, and when they were seen, they were never respected. Too weak, too few in number, too broken by history. No human could match the wealth of alien warlords. No human could claim a prize such as this. Jack stood in silence, his eyes locked on the cage. Lyra's gaze lifted to his, her expression unreadable. For a moment, the roar of the crowd faded, the lights dimmed, and the world narrowed to that single look. In her eyes was no fear, only a quiet plea, small and desperate, hidden beneath her pride. Jack exhaled slowly, then raised his hand. The room froze. A hush fell like a hammer. The auctioneer's smile twitched. What did you say, human? Jack's voice was calm, steady. I will bid. The crowd erupted into chaos. Shouts, curses, laughter, disbelief. A hulking insectoid slammed its mandibles together in mock applause. The merchant with 4 jeweled eyes laughed, so hard his body shook. Even the reptilian warlord snarled with scorn. The auctioneer leaned forward, sneer sharp as glass. And what will you offer, little soldier of a dead world? A handful of rusted credits? A promise worth less than dust. Jack did not flinch. He spoke a number, low but clear, a sum that made the room choke on silence. Gasps echoed. The merchant stopped laughing. The reptilian froze. Even the auctioneer blinked, his silver eyes narrowing. It was more than any of them had dared to place. More than even a fleet or a planet might be worth. Jack's hand remained raised. His face was unreadable, his voice cold. That is my bid. No one spoke. No one dared. The auctioneer's sneer faded, replaced by a look of uneasy respect. He turned his gaze to the crowd, searching for a challenger. None came. At last, his voice rolled once more through the chamber, softer, heavier. Sold to the human. The gavel struck. The sound echoed like thunder. And in that moment, the galaxy shifted. Jack Mason had just bought a princess. The iron cage rattled as chains lowered it from the stage. Guards with black armor and soulless eyes stepped forward, unlocking the bars. Lyra did not move as they placed a collar around her neck and shoved her toward the stairs. She walked with slow, steady steps, her head held high despite the jeers from the crowd. The audience had turned restless. Murmurs crawled across the hall like snakes in the dark. No one could understand why a human would pay such a price, nor how he even had the means. Some whispered of ancient treasure. Others hissed of stolen fortunes. Many agreed on one thing. This was madness, and madness invited blood. Jack remained still as she was led toward him. His heart pounded, but his face betrayed nothing. He had seen enough wars to know that weakness shown in front of predators meant death. When the guards shoved Lyra into his arms, he steadied her without a word. For the first time, she spoke. Her voice was soft, but strong enough to cut through the noise. Why? Jack met her eyes. Because no one else here should own you. She blinked, confusion flashing for an instant, then silence returned between them. The auctioneer's smile had sharpened into something dangerous. His 6 arms curled around him like coiled snakes. A fine purchase, human. I trust you will enjoy what little time it buys you. Jack gave no reply. He guided Lyra away from the stage, past tables where alien warlords glared at him with glowing eyes and clenched fists. Every step felt like walking across thin glass with fire waiting below. When they reached the heavy doors, a figure blocked their path. It was the reptilian warlord, massive and scaled, his jaw lined with teeth that dripped venom. His eyes burned like coals. You shame us all, human, the creature hissed. She belongs to warriors, not to a weak-blooded stray. Hand her over before I decide to crush you where you stand. The guards nearby stiffened but made no move. The crowd leaned forward, hungry for violence. Jack's hand slid beneath his coat. Slowly, he revealed not wealth, not gold, but an old weapon from a war most had forgotten. A human weapon, scarred and scratched, but still alive with power. The plasma pistol hummed, its blue glow cutting the smoke. The warlord froze. The hall fell silent once more. Jack's voice was calm, sharp enough to draw blood. Step aside. For a long moment, the reptilian stared at him, tail lashing like a whip. Then, with a hiss that shook the air, he pulled back. Jack guided Lyra through the doors. The heavy metal slammed shut behind them. The corridors outside were colder, darker. Faint lights flickered on walls stained with age. They walked in silence until the sounds of the crowd faded behind them. Jack holstered the pistol and pulled his coat tighter. Lyra finally spoke again, her voice softer now. You risked everything in there. What? Jack did not look at her. Because I have seen cages before. And I swore I would never let it happen again, not if I could stop it. Her eyes lingered on him, studying his face, his scars, the weight that hung from his shoulders. Then she said nothing more. They reached the docking bay. Jack's ship waited, a small and battered vessel, nothing compared to the shining cruisers that filled the port. He opened the hatch and motioned her inside. She hesitated, staring at the rusted hull, then stepped forward with quiet grace. Once aboard, Jack guided her to a seat, unlocking the collar around her neck. It clattered to the floor. Lyra rubbed her skin, eyes narrowing. You paid a fortune for me, but I will not be owned. Jack shook his head. I did not buy you. I freed you. The chains end here. For the first time, her proud mask faltered. Her lips parted as if she would speak, but no words came. Jack sat at the controls, his hands steady as he powered the ship. Engines roared to life, shaking dust from the walls. The docking bay doors yawned open, and stars spilled across the sky. But as the ship lifted, alarms blared. Lights flashed red. Across the comm came a voice, sharp and cold. This is command. The human has stolen royal property. Intercept immediately. Lyra's face hardened, her fire returning. They will never let us leave alive. Jack's jaw tightened. Then let them try. The ship shot into the black sea of stars, chased by shadows already rising in pursuit. The black void of space swallowed them whole as Jack's ship burst free of the station. stars streaked by in lines of silver as the engines howled. But behind them, more lights flared to life. Sleek alien vessels broke from the docks, sharp as blades, fast as predators. On the scanner, red blips multiplied. 3 ships, then 5, then 9. Jack's jaw clenched. His ship was built for survival, not for speed. Against hunters like these, he had minutes at best. His fingers flew across the controls, adjusting power, coaxing every ounce of strength from the aging thrusters. Beside him, Lyra gripped the edge of the seat, her face calm, but her eyes burning. They will not stop. Not until I am dead, or back in chains. Jack kept his gaze on the stars. Then we make sure they fail. The comms crackled. A voice cut through, deep and guttural, filled with venom. Human, you shame the galaxy with your arrogance. Hand over the Varen girl, and perhaps you will die quickly. Jack flicked a switch and killed the channel. I am done listening to threats. The first volley struck. Bolts of plasma seared past, rocking the ship as shields strained to hold. Sparks danced across the control panels. The engine screamed. Jack gritted his teeth and spun the vessel hard to starboard, the stars wheeling as enemy fire cut through empty space. Lyra's voice rose, sharp with urgency. You cannot outrun them. Their drives are faster. Their weapons stronger. You cannot win this fight. Jack snapped the controls into a dive, sending the ship into a dense asteroid field ahead. Massive rocks tumbled through the void, colliding with each other in silence, each one large enough to crush a cruiser into dust. Then we do not fight on their terms. The alien hunters followed, spitting curses in their own tongues as they weaved into the field. Explosions flared as smaller ships smashed against stone, but most stayed close, their hunger unbroken. Inside the cockpit, the ship rattled so hard the walls groaned. Jack's hands were steady, his eyes locked ahead, searching for gaps between the tumbling giants. The hull scraped rock, sparks showering the dark. Lyra glanced at him, her voice quieter now. You are not like the others. Every soul in that hull saw me as a prize. But not you. Why? Jack's lips pressed into a thin line. Because I know what it means to be left behind. To have everything you love burned away. I saw that look in your eyes. I could not ignore it. Her gaze lingered, heavy with something unspoken. Then another blast shook the ship, snapping her back to the present. Behind them, a massive cruiser broke through the field, scattering asteroids with brute force. Its cannons lit the dark, tearing rock into fire. The leader of the hunt. The comms flared once more. This time the voice was colder, smoother. The Auctioneer. You cannot run forever, human, he said. The galaxy is wide, but not wide enough to hide a princess who does not belong to you. Surrender her, and perhaps I will let you crawl away with your life. Jack smirked, though sweat ran down his temple. Funny, I do not remember asking your mercy. The Auctioneer's laugh slithered through the speakers. Then you will beg for it soon enough. The line went dead. Ahead, a shadow loomed. A gas giant, vast and storm-wrapped, its surface swirling with lightning that split the heavens in blinding arcs. Jack's eyes narrowed. A plan began to form. He jerked the controls, aiming straight for the giant. Lyra's eyes widened. Are you mad? The storms will tear us apart. Jack's voice was steady. They will tear us apart, if I make a mistake. The ship dove into the roiling clouds, swallowed by endless red and gold. Lightning ripped across the hull. Alarms screamed. Shields flickered, fading to nothing. The vessel shook as if giants gripped it by the wings. But the hunters followed, their arrogance driving them deeper into the storm. Plasma fire lit the clouds, but each bolt vanished into the chaos. The storm itself became a weapon, blinding and deafening all who entered. Jack pulled the ship into a narrow pocket between two cyclones, darkness swallowing them whole. He cut the engines, letting the storm carry them, silent and hidden. The alien ships roared past, blind in the chaos, chasing shadows that were no longer there. Silence returned. Only the sound of the storm rumbled around them. Jack exhaled, leaning back in his seat. Lyra stared at him, her chest rising and falling with slow, steady breaths. Finally, she spoke, her voice low but filled with fire. You are either the bravest fool I have ever seen, or the most dangerous. Jack allowed a small smile. Maybe both. She looked at him for a long time, her eyes softening. Then she turned toward the storm, her voice a whisper. My people think I am dead. They will never know what became of me. Jack glanced at her, his tone firm. Then we show them. You are alive. And no one decides your fate but you. The ship drifted deeper into the storm, hidden from the hunters who still searched the skies. But both Jack and Lyra knew this was only the beginning. Somewhere beyond the clouds, the auctioneer waited. And he would not stop until what was stolen was his again. The storm slowly thinned, and Jack guided the ship out into the quiet black once more. The stars spread wide. A sea of silver scattered across eternity. For a brief moment, silence filled the cabin. No pursuit. No alarms. Only the hum of tired engines and the faint pulse of life support. Jack leaned back in his chair, rubbing at the scar on his jaw. We bought ourselves some time. Not much, but enough to breathe. Lyra sat across from him, her posture still proud though weariness touched her eyes. They will find us. The auctioneer has reach across 100 systems. He will not stop. Not while I live. Jack studied her for a moment. Even exhausted, she carried herself like a queen. There was strength in her eyes that defied the chains she had worn. Then we make it hard for him, Jack said. We need allies, and a place he will not expect us to go. Lyra tilted her head. You sound as though you have done this before. Running. Fighting. Always outnumbered. Jack's gaze drifted to the stars, memories stirring like ghosts. I fought in wars that left entire planets burning. I lost brothers, friends. I watched empires tear themselves apart for power they could never hold. After it ended, I swore I would not fight again. But some battles do not let you walk away. Lyra's voice softened. And yet here you are? Risking death for a woman you did not know. He looked at her. Because freedom is worth dying for. Yours. Mine. Anyone's. Silence lingered. Then, suddenly, alarms chirped again. The console lit with warning signals. Not enemy ships this time, but a broadcast. A coded signal. Jack frowned, his fingers flying across the controls. The signal was faint, buried in static, but alive. Lyra leaned closer, her eyes wide as the sound grew clearer. It was a voice she knew. To all who remain. This is Commander Selen of the Varen Resistance. The princess is gone. The throne is dust. But our fight endures. If you hear this, know that House Vera is not yet broken. We gather in the shadows. We strike when we can. The Empire will not stand forever. Lyra's lips parted, her chest rising sharply. Selen. Her voice trembled for the first time since Jack had seen her. Jack glanced at her. You know him. He was my father's shield-bearer. My most loyal protector. If he lives, then so do others. My people are not all gone. She turned, fire blazing in her eyes once more. We must find him. Jack nodded slowly. The signal came from the outer rim. Dangerous territory. Pirates. Smugglers. Warlords who answer to no one. Her jaw set with steel. Then it is the perfect place to hide. And the only place left to me. Jack set the course. The ship groaned as it turned, engines pushing them toward the unknown. Hours passed. The stars shifted. And then, from the black, lights appeared. A station, vast and crooked, built from scavenged hulls and broken dreams. It spun slowly above a dying moon, its surface crawling with ships of every shape and size. A haven for outlaws, where law did not reach. As they approached, a swarm of small fighters circled them like vultures. The comm crackled, and a rough voice barked. Identify or be torn apart. Jack keyed the mic, just passing through. Looking to trade. Static hissed. Then the voice replied, low and suspicious. Dock and prove it. The fighters pulled back just enough to let them through. Jack guided the ship into the bay, where the walls dripped with rust and the air smelled of smoke. Strange figures watched from the shadows. Tall insectoids with glimmering shells. Hulking brutes with tusks and steel plates welded into their flesh. Thin, pale aliens with eyes like knives. Jack felt their stares dig into his back as he lowered the ramp. His hand brushed the grip of his pistol, ready for trouble. Lyra walked beside him, her silver hair shining under the grim lights, her posture regal even here. Whispers rippled through the crowd. Some recognized her. Others hungered. From the far side of the bay, a figure emerged. Tall, broad, armored in plates scarred from 100 battles. His face was hidden beneath a helmet of black steel, but his voice carried deep and strong. Princess. Lyra froze. Her eyes widened, then softened with disbelief. Selen. The man removed his helmet. His face was older, lined with scars, but his eyes burned bright with loyalty. He dropped to one knee, bowing his head. "Forgive me. I failed you once. I will not fail you again." Jack watched quietly as Lyra stepped forward, her hand trembling as she touched Selen's shoulder. "You did not fail me. You saved what could be saved. And now, together, we will save the rest." But before the reunion could deepen, the station lights flickered. The air grew heavy. A shadow fell across the bay. A message echoed through the comms, filled with cruel laughter. "You thought you could hide from me in the dirt and rust of the rim? Foolish human. Foolish princess. Did you really think the auctioneer would let his prize slip so easily?" Outside, ships gathered, blotting out the stars. The hunt was not over. It had only just begun. The station shook as enemy ships surrounded it, their engines burning like hungry suns. The bay doors sealed shut with a thunderous clang, locking Jack, Lyra, and Selen inside. Sirens wailed. Traders and mercenaries scattered for cover. Selen's hand dropped to the hilt of his blade, a weapon carved from the crystal hearts of dying stars. His eyes narrowed. "The auctioneer found us faster than I thought. He must have marked your ship." Jack cursed under his breath. Figures. The kind of man who chains a princess does not play fair. Lyra's gaze swept the bay, sharp and commanding. "Then we turn this trap into a battlefield. These hunters do not care for the lives of the station folk. If we do nothing, they will burn everyone alive." Selen rose to his full height, his armor glinting under the failing lights. "The outlaws will not fight for us. They will sell us if given the chance." Jack checked his pistol, sliding a fresh cell into the chamber. "Then we do not give them the chance." As if on cue, the auctioneer's voice slithered through the station speakers. "People of the rim, deliver the human and the girl, and I will let you live. Resist me, and you will be nothing but ash." The bay filled with murmurs, fear sparking like dry grass and fire. A few figures began edging toward Jack and Lyra, hands twitching near weapons. Lyra stepped forward, her voice ringing out clear and strong. "Do not listen to him. He promises mercy, but he offers only chains. Today it is me, tomorrow it will be your children, your lives, your freedom. Stand aside if you wish, but do not hand me to this monster." For a moment, silence followed. Then one voice rose, deep and rough. "She speaks truth." An insectoid trader stepped forward, its chitin scarred and cracked. "The auctioneer took my brood for his mines. I will see him burn." Another voice echoed. Then another. Soon, the bay buzzed with anger, and weapons were raised, not at Jack and Lyra, but at the sky outside. Jack smirked. "Looks like you have a talent for speeches." Lyra's chin lifted. "A queen must carry more than a crown. She must carry hope." Selen's eyes softened for only a moment, then hardened once more. "Hope is good, but hope needs steel." Outside, the first barrage struck. The station walls shuddered, plates tearing loose, fires igniting in the dark. The auctioneer's ships opened their maws, spilling swarms of armored troops that rained down like fire. The bay erupted into chaos. Blaster fire lit the air. Screams rose. Smoke choked the light. Jack fought with grim focus, his pistol spitting blue fire. Every shot found a target, every movement sharp with the precision of a soldier who had seen too many wars. Selen was a storm at his side, his crystal blade carving through armor like paper. Lyra stayed close, her chains gone, but her voice fierce, guiding fighters, rallying the frightened, turning chaos into resistance. The auctioneer's troops pressed hard, their armor shining, their weapons cruel. But the outlaws of the rim fought with the rage of those who had lost too much already. The bay floor became a furnace of smoke and fire. Then, from the smoke, the auctioneer himself appeared. His silver skin gleamed, his 6 arms spread wide, each holding a blade, or whip, or gun. His eyes glowed with cruel hunger. He stepped onto the bay floor, his laughter slicing through the battle. "You cannot win, human. You cannot hide, princess. You are mine." Jack leveled his pistol. Selen raised his blade. Lyra stood between them, her voice like iron. "No," she said. "I am not yours. I will never be yours." The auctioneer roared and lunged, his 6 arms moving faster than the eye could follow. The final battle had begun. The clash shook the bay like thunder. The auctioneer moved with impossible speed, his 6 arms striking in a storm of blades and whips. Sparks flew as steel met crystal, as fire met flesh. Selen met him first, his crystal blade carving arcs of light. Every strike rang like a bell, each clash echoing through the bay. Jack darted in and out of the storm, his pistol flaring blue fire, each shot aimed with deadly care. But the auctioneer was no ordinary foe. His skin hardened against plasma, his arms weaving a shield of steel. He laughed as he fought, a sound that boiled blood. You think you can defy me? I am power. I am wealth. I am destiny itself. Jack snarled, ducking under a blade that missed his skull by a breath. You are just another slaver hiding behind gold. The auctioneer's whip lashed, cracking across Jack's chest, tearing through his coat. Pain seared, but Jack gritted his teeth, rolling back to his feet. Selen roared, driving the crystal blade deep, sparks exploding as it clashed with the auctioneer's armored ribs. Lyra watched, her chest heaving, her hands trembling. But she did not hide. She stepped forward, her voice rising above the clash. You call yourself destiny. But destiny does not bind. Destiny does not chain. Destiny frees. The auctioneer froze for a heartbeat, his eyes snapping toward her. That single pause was enough. Jack seized it. His pistol flared, a bolt striking one of the auctioneer's arms. Flesh sizzled, silver blood spraying across the floor. Selen pressed in, blade carving deep into another arm. The auctioneer shrieked, fury tearing through the air. He lashed out, hurling Selen across the bay with a strike that cracked bone. Jack staggered back, chest burning, his pistol nearly torn from his hand. The slaver towered above them, for arms still strong, his eyes wild. You cannot kill me. I will rise again and again. The galaxy bends to men like me. Lyra stepped forward, her silver hair flowing, her voice sharp as a blade. Then the galaxy will learn to bend no more. She seized a fallen weapon from the floor, a staff tipped with plasma. With all her strength, she drove it forward, the crackling energy piercing straight through the auctioneer's chest. His scream tore through the bay, a sound of rage and disbelief. His arms flailed, then fell. His silver skin cracked, light spilling from within. And then, with one final roar, his body shattered into ash and flame. Silence followed. The bay was thick with smoke, the floor littered with broken steel and bodies. The outlaws slowly lifted their heads, their weapons lowering. The auctioneer was gone. Truly gone. Selen rose with effort, blood running down his arm, his blade still glowing. He looked to Lyra and bowed his head. You ended him. Not I. Not the human. You. You are your people's hope reborn. Lyra's chest heaved as she looked at the ashes. Then her gaze turned to Jack. He stood bruised, burned, blood dripping from his side, but still steady. Their eyes met, and no words were needed. In that look, she saw the truth. He had never sought gold, never sought glory. Only her freedom. The outlaws began to cheer. First one voice, then many, echoing through the smoke-filled bay. Lyra straightened, her voice carrying once more. The chains are broken. Not just mine, but yours as well. Today we stand free. And tomorrow, we will rise. The cheer grew louder, filling the station, spilling into the void. Jack leaned against a scorched pillar, his pistol hanging at his side. For the first time in years, he allowed himself a small, tired smile. The war was not over. The galaxy was still cruel. But for now, they had won. And sometimes, that was enough. The fires were put out slowly, one by one, until the bay lay in silence. The air still smelled of smoke and blood, but life had survived. The outlaws who once feared the auctioneer now stood taller, their chains broken by the fall of one tyrant. Jack sat on a crate near his battered ship, his chest bandaged, his pistol resting at his side. The pain in his ribs reminded him he was still alive, though barely. He had faced death many times before, but this fight felt different. This time, he had not fought for duty, nor for orders. He had fought for something far greater. Lyra stood nearby, her hair falling like silver fire across her shoulders. She spoke with Selen and the outlaw leaders, her voice calm, but commanding. She was no longer the chained girl in the cage. She was once more a princess, though something in her had changed. Hardship had sharpened her, but freedom had given her fire. Selen bowed low before her, his voice steady. Your people believe you are dead. When they learn you live, hope will rise like the sun. Lyra placed a hand on his shoulder. Then we will gather them. Piece by piece, we will rebuild what was lost. Jack rose slowly, each step heavy. Lyra turned as he approached. For a moment, the weight of battle faded, and they stood in the quiet glow of the docking lights. You gave me back my life, she said softly. Not because you had to, not because it was easy. You did it because you chose to. I will not forget that, Jack Mason. Jack looked at her, his eyes steady, though tired. You do not owe me anything. You never did. But if you want me to stay and fight beside you, I will. Lyra's lips curved. Not quite a smile, but something close. Then I will not be alone. The hum of engines filled the bay as ships began to prepare for departure. The outlaw fleet that had survived now turned its eyes to something greater than survival. For the first time in years, they had a leader who spoke not of greed or fear, but of freedom. Selin stepped forward, his voice carrying across the bay. The Auctioneer is dead. His empire will fracture. But more will come, others like him. We cannot fight alone. We must rise together. With the princess alive, with the human at her side, we can be more than prey. We can be fire. The crowd roared, voices shaking the very walls. Jack glanced at Lyra, and for once, he let the faintest smile touch his lips. Looks like you have a war to win. Her eyes met his. Not just me. Us. Together, they boarded Jack's ship. It was scarred, rusted, and barely holding together. But as the engines roared and the stars spread wide ahead, it felt like the beginning of something far larger than either of them had imagined. The galaxy was vast, filled with shadows and chains. But somewhere in that endless dark, two figures now walked a brighter path. One human soldier who had once sworn never to fight again, and one princess who refused to bow to fate. And together, they would make the stars remember what freedom truly meant.